to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I knew. I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed.
what I say.
It's not about whether you protect your partner or not. It's about what you have said that has caused such concern in the UK. And I want to put it to you that you don't really care about the harm it causes.
That's not true.
Because
that's not true.
Making controversial statements like this online has made you a lot of money.
Okay, so first thing, I genuinely am a force for good in the world. You may not understand that yet, but you will eventually. And I genuinely believe I'm acting under the instruction of God to do good things, and I want to make the world a better place.
Whew. Guys, welcome to Little Black Book 91, baby. We're giving you guys a live on Andrew Tate. Yes, you guys asked me to break it down, so I went to watch it. And let me just tell you an honest truth. Listen, there's a lot of manipulation that goes on in this situation. A lot. I have notes. Now, I didn't want to break down the whole interview because I felt like that may be another time I can do that for you guys. What I want to do is focus on the manipulation that's been used. I want to focus on the strategies of war that is used. I want to focus on the things that are not being said. And when I went around the internet to kind of find out the reason, kind of find out what people's thoughts were, it's quite interesting to find out how a lot of the men that supported Andrew Tate, how they viewed the particular interview. A lot of them were screaming. In fact, on his channel, I think it was, or BSN, 2.1 million views, and it has over 40,000 comments. And the majority of those comments, at least the first 100 or 200 I read, were in firm support of Andrew Tate, and I don't think it was going to change any further down I went. Now, why is this intriguing for me? I think it's intriguing for me personally because I feel like what Andrew Tate represents for a lot of these men, which we call disenfranchised men, the manosphere, the red pill, all those kind of people, is a voice. So I want to be very fair. He represents a voice, but Andrew Tate's no fool. Okay, just like Kevin Samuels was no fool. All right. They are very much aware how much the voice pays. They're very much aware how much the voice pays and how you monetize people's pain to make it work for you. Now, Andrew Tate has obviously come up and on our feeds, especially on TikTok at a time, last few years, and majority of the content that blew up, that really blew up, just like Kevin Samuels once again. Okay, all right. Just like Kevin Samuels once again was more about the commentary that involved the opposite sex. And the reason why this is very important is because what people like Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit and Dems, those kind of people, what they do is what we call a Trojan horse. Yeah. So we're going to break it down. I'm going to break it all the way down as much as I can in terms of the manipulation and try to break down understanding what's going on as to why people feel some type of way but can't really explain it. And then we'll go deeper. All right. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, really know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. All right, cool. So my very first thing I want to talk about is this thing called a Trojan horse. Okay. So many of you guys might remember, that famous Greek story where, the I don't know who it was. I don't remember the story, but anyway, but all you need to know is that in that story, the Trojan horse, what it represents is the fact that this horse was a gift to the enemy. And as a gift to the enemy, what it allowed for the enemy to do was to send a gift and have their people inside of the horse. And as the horse entered into the enemy territory and it was accepted as a gift, then they jumped out and attacked and killed everybody around them, right? A very beautiful story. Go and read it somewhere in your history books. If it's historical, I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, the most important part is it's a form of manipulation, right? Destroying your enemy from within is actually one of the 33 strategies of war. If you have never read that book, go read it. It's a very good book. But the 33 strategies of war as well, which was written by, is it Tozen? I remember, no, Robert Greene. Sorry, 33 strategies of war, Robert Greene, which is based on an original book, I believe, by Tozen as well. But what's important to understand is the Trojan horse is done something like this, right? I start telling you relationship advice about, guys, love your husbands, or love your wives, men, right? And so you first get trusting to me, a bit like Derek Jackson. You start trusting me, right? I start putting my message as very similar to Kevin Samuels, starting to attack the men first. No problem. It gets people in the door. Okay. All right. It gets people in the door. And once it gets people in the door, what you do is then you flip the message or you adjust the message, right? But people are already now attuned and locked in. They're now loyal. They've bought into you. They've enjoyed you. They like you. And so now you are what we call a trusted advisor. It's very manipulative. You are now what we call a trusted advisor. You see, many of us have very short attention spans. Number two, many of us don't like to think too much. We like to have what we call bite size. And when you have bite size, that's how you get conned. Because if you do bite-sized information, what happens is you tend not to gather all the source of information to make well-rounded, educated decisions. And a lot of men who are feeling disenfranchised get stuck in these places because of bite-sized information, right? So when they start the Trojan Horse, it starts off really good. It's like, I'm all here for men. I want men. So this is how it will start. I want men to work on themselves. I want men to stop being bees and start being men that stand up. I want men to take care of themselves. I want men to work hard and get their money up. It starts off about self-development, self-improvement. It always does. Have you noticed? Kevin Samuels, Andrew Tate follow the same route. It starts off as what we call self-improvement. They don't go famous for self-improvement. Just want to let you know, you don't go famous for self-improvement amongst men, more than likely. Okay? You don't. Where you go famous, where you start trending, where you start going viral is when you start attacking women. But you have to be very careful about when I say attacking, because you can't just come outright and attack them. No, the smartest ones understand what I would call, you make a thinly veiled assailants, okay? A thinly veiled critical attack. And what that means is it's underneath the guise of jokes, witty humor, under the guise of sarcasm, under the guise of let's say very clever long-winded stories, and underneath analogies, under what do you call those things? I'm trying to think of what we call them now. But anyway, yeah. So there's a whole lot of different things. All right. So a lot of the times they start off that way, and then when they want to shift, they shift very cleverly. They don't just come outright attacking women. They start by then going into what we call the thinly veiled assailed. And what that means is critical arguments made against something, right? So they become very violent in their critical arguments, but not directly. It starts off passively because you've done a Trojan horse. So now you got to start off passively. Now you got to shift your content and your message over. So what you're doing is you're making critical arguments, but you're using thinly veiled attacks and passive aggressive movements. So you use humor, witty, backhanded compliments. Thank you. You use personal anecdotes. Yeah, you start using skewed stats, right? Skewed stats, and you start telling stories and anecdotes that back your argument, that don't tell the full story, or they generally are true stories, but they don't represent the whole majority of the stats, right? They don't tell the whole story. When you don't use nuance, when you don't take into key, and their favorite word is context, right? When you don't do that, what happens is you start being able to build your critical arguments, but you do it in a very, very passive aggressive kind of way, right? Very clever way. And what happens is the audience doesn't realize the shift because the argument isn't done directly. It's not harsh. If I go from red to blue, we're going to have a problem. But if I go from red to purple to blue, you're going to accept it. What that means is I've got to program you, but I've got to slowly ingest it into you. You get me? I've got to slowly ingest it into you, right? And when I do that, what happens is you'll be able to receive what I'm saying. What I think I heard today was what I heard the other day was for the human body, it needs salt or sodium chloride with a little bit of something minerals in order to absorb water better. We need that component. So when you have that sodium chloride, that salt in a particular way of fashion of compound in chemical, what it allows you to do is it allows you to soak in water in a particular way. It allows you to soak in more water, right? The water can pass through due to the molecule breakdown, right? Now, I'm sure you scientists will know better than I do, okay? What am I explaining? I'm saying that you need something to pacify to help it pass through much more easier, your message. So because it's done that way, it convolutes the truth. And so what happens is it becomes very difficult for people who are not aware of manipulation or the tactics that people use to be able to really spot when manipulation's happening. So they struggle they can feel it. Something's not quite right. Sorry about that, a little spit on my mouth there. Don't watch that. But something's not quite right, but I'm not sure what. Yeah, something's not quite right, but I'm not sure exactly what. And that is what we call this clever attack, right? The Trojan Horse. Now, one of the three things I want to talk about, and I'll talk about this in a second or two as well. I'll talk about the three arts of three particular strategies of war that he in using an interview. But so manipulation, what it means in psychology, manipulation is defined as a subterfuge designed to influence or control another, usually in a manner which facilitates one's personal aim. Now, let me be very clear and very true, okay? Let me be very, very clear and true. There are several things that I actually agree with when it comes to Andrew Tate's statements, okay? There are several things I have to agree with, okay? All right? Where I agree, all right, with Tate, okay? Where I agree with Tate, okay? There's some things I agree with, okay? First and foremost, someone asks, what is, in a sense, the matrix? And you know, biblically, the matrix is the mother's womb. It's the womb. It's the womb. Biblically speaking, when you use the word matrix, it meant the womb, the giver of life, right? It is the source or the giver of the life in a sense, right? If you're talking about biblically speaking, when it was used in the Old Testament, if you're talking about years ago when the word was used, but the matrix in some sense or forms, when I talk about it in a sense, is more the system, okay? It's a system of control. It is the structure of life. It is how do we describe this in a sense so you can fully describe it, what the matrix is about? It is about saying that the world that we live in is constructed, right? And it's constructed to benefit certain people. And those people have control and they program you to live life a certain way. That's what the matrix in a sense entails. And it's so funny because it's gospel. I don't disagree with him. You know, the matrix, I don't disagree with him. The matrix is real because biblically it tells us the same thing. But the difference between the matrix that the people of Andrew Tate are talking about and the one I'm talking about is I'm not stopping on a practical level. I'm taking it to a spiritual level. Because if you take it to a practical level, you can only go so far. I take it to a spiritual level. The matrix, in a sense, is the system that the devil has allowed for us to see to inspire control. Yeah, the matrix is the system that this world is governed by that Satan controls. But because we don't see Satan necessarily, we see his influences. What you will see is man. And man will obey these laws of self. And so what man is governed by is their own greed and their internal compass for sin. And they have propagated this system in order for them to be able to maintain control over the masses. That's your matrix. That's why in the film The Matrix, he meets the architect, meaning the creator of the structure. Okay? And here's the truth. No matter how much money you have, how much financial freedom you think you're going to have, wherever you go, you are never going to be free of the matrix, because the matrix must be awoken from. So even with Andrew Tate's message about the matrix and saying how financial freedom, all this, the reality is the matrix cannot be beat. This ain't the film. You can't beat the matrix because you do not have the person who can beat the matrix. See, I don't want to go deep now, but if I go deep now, we're going to get lost. But let me go deep. Let me go deep. Okay. So the whole film, The Matrix, is the gospel. I know people didn't deep it. My very quick explanation of why the Matrix is the gospel. First and foremost, Morpheus represents the Father. Trinity represents the Son. Represents the Holy Spirit. The One, Neo, represents the One, the Son, Jesus. What does Neo do? Neo is, the Bible says that Jesus Christ was born by a mother to the law, right? But he's the one that's going to free people from the law. The law being, in this case, that man having to use the law to enter into heaven, but no man can do it because no man is perfect, right? So I just want to give that aspect so you understand what we're saying about that. That's God's law we're talking about, right? So he's born underneath the law. So he's born on earth, okay? He's heavenly, but he's born on earth. Born on earth ends up freeing the people, right? Matrix, Neo, Mr. Thomas Anderson, which is, I think, is based on one of the saints as well. Okay, Neo ends up getting a word. He sees that obviously that life is not what it actually is. He tries to enter the matrix. Neo represents not only Jesus, but he represents also Christians himself, right? The battle one faces to exit this life and enter into being born again, right? Because what happens when Neo comes out the matrix? He's born what? Again, right? He actually has his real birth. Whereas beforehand, he was manufactured. Now he's been born into the reality of what realness actually is. And even though technically he's still in the matrix when he comes out the matrix, but anyway, hey, that's another story. So he's reborn. And then obviously Neo goes about and he can do all these great things. Suddenly he can do greater things than everybody else. Just like the Bible says that we shall do greater works than he, which is Jesus Christ, right? Again, matrix links to the gospel, but I don't want to go too deep. What I'm really kind of saying is you can't exit this matrix, because until the Bible, you do what the Bible tells you, which is 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4, which is you remove the scales from your eyes and see that the ruler of this earth is Satan. Ruler of this earth, meaning system, not the actual earth, but the systems of this earth is Satan. So until that scale is removed from your eyes, you will always be underneath the elemental powers of this earth. You will always be at their jurisdiction, and you will always be at their mercy, because that's who you are ruled by. So the matrix, that's the level I take it to. But Andrew Tate and then will take it to a level of financial, control, and that there are people at the very top, which is very true. There are people at the very, very top who influence and change and set things in motion, who change history, who influence people to think a certain way, etc., etc. He's also not wrong about that. So the matrix, in a sense, is this system of control. It is this world view, okay, that has a hold on everybody and programs them to become whatever the world has in place for them as well, right? So now I agree with that part when it comes to Andrew Tate. I won't lie to you. I think he has some good points there. There's some other things I also agree with him in regards to, I agree. He talks about legacy media. They'd be lying and manipulating. I agree with him that. Yeah. The media, the mainstream media is a part of the tools that are used to program people. That's why we watch TV and we have channels and we have programs. They are to program us. They don't always tell the truth, right? They report some truth, but they don't always tell the truth because they have their own agenda, right? And their agenda is to make sure that you conform to their agenda, right? So any major media outlet you see, the moment it's a threat to the matrix, meaning it's a threat to whatever orchestrated truth they want to give you, that media has to be shut down. The moment it has a greater aspect of influence, it has to be shut down, right? So when Andrew Tate says, because he has influence, they're trying to shut him down, there's an element of truth to what he's saying, right? It's very Jesus-like. I'm not saying he is Jesus. It's very Jesus-like because when Jesus came, his message wasn't even to say, let's destroy the Romans. The Romans had no problem with him. Shoot, Romans they didn't even care, because as far as they were concerned, Jesus wasn't asking them to make him a king of Rome. Jesus was asking stuff that they didn't care about. It wasn't influencing their power. Okay. All right. So, very much same way that as soon as Jesus started having influence, the Pharisees, who could represent the matrix at that point in time, the religious matrix, they instantly started attacking Jesus, trying to trip him up, trying to get people not to follow him. Don't want him to have any power over the people, because when he spoke with authority. Very similar, Andrew Tate has a level of authority. When he speaks, these men do listen, right? And so if he decides to tell them go against, and let me tell you this as well, what Andrew Tate doesn't realize is, until you give your life to Christ, and because Jesus is the only way, by the way, so if anyone's here of a different faith, God bless you, but Jesus is the only way. Until you give your life to Jesus Christ, you must know you're still a tool in anybody's hand, no matter what faith you are, right? And what you have to also understand is that the agenda that's also at play, okay, is working in favor of Satan. If you don't serve Jesus, your agenda tends to work against, it tends to be anti-God, right? Except God, obviously, but in all things, God makes it work for him in the end, because all things that were done for evil are turned for good. So what's really important, right? What's really important is that the agenda that's working here is a spirit. See, I asked myself, the one was like, why do these people do what they do? And I said, well, there is a spirit that's also working, that is moving things towards a certain angle. Because I believe we need to go to a place where people, the mass, are disillusioned with governments around the world. I believe we need to get to a place where people distrust their government so much they are willing to bear arms together, willing to sacrifice and die and attack their own governments. See, because we need to get to a place where if I'm talking about prophecy-wise, we need to get to a place where there's going to be some form of what we call military arms from governments around the world. How best do you do that? Create total anarchy. It's very spiritual and physical, right? And what you realize is what Andrew Tate is doing, what he's becoming, is becoming a puppet of or should I say, the spiritual influence, the physical manifestation of the spiritual influence to create the divide between the legacy media, or we call it the proper traditional media, and the ordinary man and woman. Okay, and so what happens is he's not going to be the last. Okay, he's not the first, but he's a part of the whole situation when it comes to creating discord between governments and their people to create martial law. Because when you create martial law, right, and you have people that are out of pocket, out of their mind, doing whatever they want to do, they have no regard for law anymore, what do? You bring in the marshals in, but that then also brings what we call I believe it's First Thessalonians. Is it 2 or 4? Can't remember. Where it talks about the man of lawlessness. You in order to bring about the man of lawlessness, which we as Christians talk about Revelations and talk about the beast and mark of the beast and talking about one world governments and systems, you need to create that particular dynamic between the two. Now, this could be my generation, it could be the next generation, it could be 5, 6. No man knoweth the hour. But what I see is that disillusion between the two coming in. And when I played that clip, I played this clip on purpose because it's a strategy of war that he's implementing right here. So let me put this as a thing so I can remind myself. The first strategy of war that he's implementing, I would have gone in order, but shoot, sometimes you try it and it doesn't go in order the way you want it to go to. So the first strategy of war, or first two, Okay. The one that he's using is now a holy war. Okay. He wants to make this a holy war, right? So let me put this here. So one of the strategies of war that you use is making this into a crusade or a holy war. Okay, so let me just put that. That is number 7 on the 33 strategies of war. All right, turn your war into a holy war. Okay, turn your war into a holy war. It's an art of strategy. It's number 7 on the list, and what it means is to turn your war that is now not just a war, it's now a glorious war. It's a holy war, a bit like what the Knight Templars did as an excuse to go and kill many people, right? You turn your war into a holy war and people will back you. How do we know he's turned it into a holy war? Well, just look at this clip here again. Let's listen again to what he actually said and you'll see what he says. And notice also what he does in creating an us versus them. Listen to the language. Cults do this, right? And not only cults do this, countries do this when they want to go to war. When countries want to go to war, they do the exact same tactic. It's us versus them. And what happens is you as an innocent party, you've now got a choice to make because it's us versus them. What can you do? And this is exactly what he's doing as an art of war, or what he does. Okay.
Statements like this online has made you a lot of money.
Okay, so first thing, I genuinely am a force for good in the world. You may not understand that yet, but you will eventually. And I genuinely believe I'm acting under the instruction of God to do good things, and I want to make the world a better place. I genuinely believe my legacy is a good legacy, and I believe that eventually when the legacy media catches up, they're going to understand I'm a good positive influence. I'm not interested in damaging the world for money, because if I was interested in damaging the world for money, I could have sold drugs, or I could make rap music and encourage everyone to stab each other like all the drill artists do.
Or you can make controversial statements online that attract a lot of followers who you then direct to your website where they pay
I could make
to
jokes.
learn how to be
Sure,
like you.
I mean, I could make jokes.
So what you heard just then was him saying, well, I was underneath the instructions of God. Is it not interesting that all of a sudden, as soon as this situation happened, as soon as Andrew Tate was about to be, as soon as the governments came upon Andrew Tate and he got banned from Twitter, got banned from TikTok, got banned from all these things, okay? Wasn't it interesting how suddenly he became a Muslim? It's not by chance. He knows exactly what he's doing. If you don't know anything about Andrew Tate is a very intelligent brother. He used to be a fighter back in the day. So he's very much aware of war and how to issue it. Okay? So inevitably, when he's saying here, I was underneath the instruction of God, you know, I didn't do this of my own merit. I've been called to do this. So what happens is people start getting zealous. People start getting zealous, and they start co-opting his particular thoughts, right? So now he's implementing the whole "I'm a Muslim." I think he said he was a Muslim because he said originally he was slightly a Christian as well, So beforehand he was a bit of a Christian, So now we've got a situation where he's now Muslim. I believe he is now. He's practicing some of it, and now it's a holy war. Is it? Is it a holy war? And the thing is, people will blindly support it because remember, a lot of people are already disillusioned with the government already. There are laws in place that people don't like. There are things that are happening from the government that people don't like. There are things in society that people blame the government for. And so when people are disillusioned already and disenfranchised and unheard, and they find their champion who can speak to the government and the powers that be, and you see that the government and the powers that be listen to them, are you not going to get behind him? You are. Because this is somebody who can hear our cries and give it on to the powers that be. They co-opt him to become now their champion. Right? So this is what's happening in the midst of that situation. That is one of the ways that somebody issues war. Okay, they turn it into a crusade and start making God the center of the situation, and say, I know it's God that's telling me, it's God that's telling me to do this, I wanted to find a part of it. Okay. One of the things that they do, manipulation, what cults do or cult leaders do is they pit two people against each other. I want to just put this here as well so you can actually understand this as well. Okay, so you understand this. So I picked this little part out as well, right? So one of the things that they do is also they pit you against us against them, right? And it's a really powerful method. When I was doing a lot of videos to expose cults such as Spat Nation, a church in England, I did a lot of research into cults and stuff. And one of the techniques of any good cult leader, I'm not saying they're good, but any good cult leader, one of the things that they actually do is they make it us versus them. And it's really important to do so because what it does, it creates in the person's mindset that it's us, is be killed or be, or it's kill or be killed. And then what happens is their mind's already influenced. So everything that somebody says against them, they start to feel like they're being attacked. And whenever the person in charge says, I told you this would happen, just like he said about, I'm telling you, and he was sitting there like this, I'm telling you, I think it's a Masonic sign even, but I don't even know. But remember he said, he was, if you've watched him for a long while, he was telling people, hey, basically, hey, look, I told you guys, as soon as I do this, this will happen. Now, if you realize Jesus was the first person to kind of do this, right? Where he prophesied his own death and how people will come against him. And the disciples didn't really fully understand. And obviously it came full circle. And so similar enough, we see the same thing here with Andrew Tate, where cult leaders try to do this as well, where they will try to prophesy and tell you about what's going to come their way, right? And so what happens is it comes their way. And so what happens is their prophecy now comes to truth. And then people are like, well, you know what? He's right. We knew this was going to happen. So what are people saying now? See, he was right. The Matrix is attacking him. The Matrix is coming after him. The charges aren't real. The charges are fake. All the evidence is fake. Right? So now you get a whole situation where he's going to say us against them. Let's have a look at this, right?
Protecting them and providing for them. And just because the world has gone crazy and the legacy media has gone crazy, most people at home are still relatively sane. And these are the people who are going to write on the comments that Andrew isn't saying anything that's outlandish. It's the whole world believes these things.
I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you're doing this. I told you. Same as twice. I told you. They come in, they smile, they shake their hands, and then they read one talking line excerpts from Black Roll.
It's fine. It's fine.
It goes like that.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm having a nice conversation with you, so I'm enjoying it. So it's no problem. It's been fun so far.
These people are our own camp roles this time. People are enemies.
It's fine.
I wanted to get to this part. Sorry, I wanted to get to the next part, but it's taking a little bit of a while. So it actually happened already, but I want to get to he does talk a little bit longer. I just wanted them to get back onto it where they talk again. I think.
We good?
Yes.
Tell me when.
Do you want to clap again?
Yes, no. We didn't stop, no?
I can do the clap. Now we good?
It's not about conservative.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
If a man broke into your house, wouldn't you want your husband to protect you?
There's a difference.
Let me go back. I think I missed my point.
My obligation as a man is to protect and provide for females. Everything I'm talking about is traditional gender roles, which 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, would not be considered outlandish, would not be considered crazy, would not be considered dangerous or misogynistic. The world has changed, and a lot of people haven't changed with the world. Please understand there's a lot of women at home watching this right now who like the idea of their man sticking up for them, protecting them, and providing for them. And just because the world has gone crazy and the legacy media has gone crazy, most people at home are still relatively sane. And these are the people who are going to write on the comments that Andrew isn't saying anything that's outlandish.
So one of the things that a clever person does, and he does this several times, so I had to just bring that point. I couldn't bring that because I haven't written most of my notes for what I saw, but it's always lodged in. So it's pitting the fact that they're crazy, we're sane. They're crazy, we're sane. And when that happens, the supporters get riled up more because they're like, yeah, we have the truth. They don't have the truth. And so whenever they question your truth, they're like, yeah, that's a lie. They're the opposition. And it creates this divide immediately, right? Because people like to be tribalistic. Okay. All right. So, people come tribalistic straight away. All right. And so immediately the us against them comes, and he did it several times in the interview. And what happens is when you look at the comments, it's us against them because that's what he's promoted. And this is what I call a rhetoric. And this is what I call when people have a rhetoric, they know how to persuade people without actually having to make it obvious about what they're fully saying. They have persuasive language. This is what will come out, and people will catch it. People are not dumb, and the subconsciousness catches the rhetoric, and it will either agree or disagree. Okay, right? So what will happen is the divide will kick in, and two sides are formed. And when those two sides are formed, it's us against them. Who gonna win? You know what I mean? Who gonna win? All right. So, baby, there's a lot to break down because this is stuff that I was dealing with cults, man. Honestly, I was dealing with church cults, and it's exactly how they perform. The exact same way. Okay, exact same way. Yes. Okay. So also, sorry, I forgot to add this part as well. I want you guys to see this. Maybe you guys can see this on my screen. On my screen. So my notes that I have, you guys can see it as well. So hold on. Can you not see it? All right, cool. So my notes here, just so you can read it. I just wanted to do it so you can read it because I put it down. So you'll see the notes I put here. So as you can see, transform your war into a crusade. Morale. People are cynical nowadays. Speeches and group activities do little. This is the key part, right? Remember I said earlier on about the point that he made about about this situation. So one of the tactics of war is to transform your war into a crusade. People are cynical nowadays. Speeches and group activities do little. Who's doing little? People are doing very little for help men. Absolutely right, Jay, as well. I'll break that down as well. Body language. So the point is, he's speaking to disenfranchised men. So what you do is you build a group myth matrix. Use a past to forge an idea that your group is a mythical and legendary. People will feel the pride and work hard to live up to the image. Those who don't want to will be forced by the shaming pressure of their own peers. And so what happens is you transform it into a moral crusade and talk about the fact that it's God that's calling you, and to say to the fact that, you know what, that people won't believe you, that you're lying to the people, you're not being truthful, etc., etc. And what you'll realize, yes, create a hive mind, a bit like Beyonce, a bit like Beyonce's situation. So yeah, so what you'll notice is, okay, what you'll notice is this is exactly what he does. So the matrix becomes this mythical idea. It's real, but it's mythical. The matrix is mythical. It's not real, right? It's not real in the sense of the fact that we don't necessarily see it. But it's a mythical idea. And so people are galvanized by, yeah, this is the matrix. It's a matrix. What's the matrix? Of course, we know it's a system that obviously of control and oppression. We know that already, the system of programming, but it becomes that mythical creature. Absolutely, Dahlia. Let's make men great again. Precisely it. The same as the MAGA hat. Let's make America great again. It's these mythical ideas that they want people to buy into, right? That's exactly one of the tactics that they like to employ. All right. Okay. Number two, I want to say my number two. Two. I'd like to see my number two strategy of war. Know your enemy. The number 2 strategy of war, which is number 13 on the list of 33 strategies, is know your enemy intelligence. So similar to his work mastery, Robert Greene focuses here on the importance of reading people. Don't ask too many questions or you'll get them on a defensive. Put a friendly or even subservient front, observe them, let them open up voluntarily, uncover their weakness and use them. Now, this is my favorite one because if you watch my interviews, that's what I do. Okay, so I'm not going to lie to you. That's my favorite one. Okay, I use that all the time in all my interviews. That's how we get them to open up. Okay, yeah, I'm not afraid to tell you what my strategy of war is because I've got okay, it's legal. But you don't ask too many questions, or you put them on the defensive. Put a friendly or even subservient front. Observe them, let them open up voluntarily, uncover their weakness, and use them. Right now, one of the things that's really interesting about this, also about knowing your enemy, is knowing what they're going to bring up. Right, and if you can get there before they do, you can actually anticipate their move, and when you do, you can checkmate them. Now, one of the things that happened that was really interesting was Andrew Tate. They tried to accuse Andrew Tate of something, saying that there's a woman that told the BBC about him, and he said, "You talking about Sophie? You mean that made-up girl who's not real name?" And the woman stopped, and I said, "He got you." Well, I said, "Wow, he got you, right? He got you, right? Because you were about to name, can't mention Sophie was real." So when he got ahead of it, it made him look like he knew what they were going to make the move. Now, when you present that way, what happens to the fans who are watching? Right? What happens to the fans who are watching? People are going to feel like, you know what? This guy just knows everything. He's a guru. He's a genius. He's a god. Right? He knows everything. So it's like when he did that, he put them on the back. He put the babies on the back burner, on the back foot. And I was like, whoa. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Great strategy again. He got in there before they could before they could before they could say anything more. And what it does again is it's making them look like it's making them look like you don't have anything. You don't have nothing new against him. He knows everything you're saying. He must be innocent. Because he knows all the tricks and all the truths already. He must be innocent. Right? So I was like, okay, I hear you. I ain't even mad at it, baby. Okay. All right. Let's see this. And my third point, I actually had more than 3, to be honest, but it doesn't really matter, is take the moral high ground. So we kind of discussed that already about religious war. But number 3 is take the moral high ground and make yourself righteous. All right. The moral high ground. Make your cause seem morally justified and paint your enemy as evil. So pick a fight with the enemy you can portray as morally corrupt, authoritarian, or power hungry. Don't drum up your moral superiority, but show it. Contrast your life with theirs. Convince people you're fighting for just moral cause, and nobody will take note of the tactics you deploy. Right? So, literally, what Andrew Tate has done, as I said, is he makes the BBC and legacy media evil. And the reality is, there's enough bad deeds by these particular corporations. It's not very hard to make them look evil. So in reality, he's not trying hard to make them the evil one, because most people think they are evil in some shape or form, right? So the strategy is pick a fight with an enemy you can portray as morally corrupt. That's not very hard. And that you can portray as morally corrupt, authoritarian, or power hungry. I don't think it's very hard to do, but he can do it. Right? He can make the BBC and ITV and CBN and NBC and CNN and all those kind of news outlets, he can make them look evil And it's very easy because most people have some type of aversion to these media outlets because at some point in time, they probably lied, told a half truth, not reported all the facts, done something against a particular race and been biased. They've done something that most people don't like about them. Right? So it's not very hard to make that corporation the evil one. Very easy. And that makes it easier for people to get behind your cause because they see that like, yeah, no, them man are evil. Yeah, you're right, Andrew. Them man are evil. You understand? Them man are evil. I'm with you, Andrew. Right? So that's the third situation. Now, I want to make these points real quick because I want to end it before the hour goes. I want to say this. One thing I would say this about maybe the interviewer is this. If you're going to try and nail him down, okay? If you're going to try and nail him down, you have to be an expert in manipulation. If you're going to nail Andrew Tate down on this interview, you have to be aware of the different strategies that are employed. You have to watch his content, watched it in its entirety, and actually deeped what's actually happening. This woman wasn't qualified. Can I be honest with you? She wasn't qualified. Because she was asking questions, but she's not aware of how to explain why this is an issue. If you're trying to catch him out, then you're not qualified. If you're just going to ask questions and just do as an open question, fine. But sis was getting her emotions and her feelings that at the end of the show, she couldn't even shake his hands, which tells me you got sucked in, babe. Right? And if you're going to be in that position, you need to know that you need to know how to ask questions, number one. Number two, how to also position it so that he can't get out of answering the question, or he can't try to play it off as it's context. Right? You've got to be aware of how to circle like sharks around the prey and not jump at the bit too early. You know what I mean? Y'all see how I do my interviews. Sometimes I'll be saying something, I'll set it up. They think that's the bait. I'll be like, that's not the bait. That was just that was a distraction. Then boom, hitting from behind. I'm like, oh, but you said X, Y, and Z. So how does that work with this? That's how you catch people out, because you're not rushing to try and catch them out. When you're too egotistic, when you're too eager to catch a man out, you miss you miss a lot of things because you're too eager. You have to set it up, but you also have to understand how manipulation works. When I went to interview a cult leader in a church, I made sure I understood what manipulation was and how it works. I understood how to explain why his rhetoric is violent and it is detrimental to people. I had to learn how to explain how methods of control are not you just hitting somebody, but what you say and what you do. I had to explain how power dynamics work and how they and how power dynamics influence how people, okay, how power dynamics influence people to akin to your point of view, how people can be easily influenced. What's the psychology behind it? If you don't know that, you go in to interview this brother here, you looking foolish. Do you see what I'm saying to you? Right? So when you don't do that, you leave yourself open to being attacked. Right? So when he's obviously doing things where he's, I would call it redirecting questions, right? He's redirecting his question and turning his question, redirecting questions and turning his answers into questions for you. You at that point know that, oh, so you just, see, when someone does that, you said, oh, I asked you a question, but you weren't very direct about it. I mean, you kind of twisted it around to ask me a question, but I really didn't get the answer that you actually saying. So what was the answer you were given? And he's going to go, well, I actually answered. You weren't listening. I was like, what? Maybe I wasn't listening. Can you just give me the answer straight this time? And then maybe I can understand what you're saying, right? Because what you want to do, okay, all right, what you want to do is you have to understand how this works. But she didn't understand manipulation. Like, and again, I think Jay mentioned it, but I was going to talk about it. It is the body language. Now, he's very clever, right? Because what he's doing is asserting dominance, right? This brother, he knows exactly what he's doing. Straight back, okay, forward head, hands clasped together in a power position, legs slightly wide as well. He's giving her signals subconsciously that she doesn't realize are about power and dominance. See, when people sit like that, I just go like this. And I come real casual. So what do you mean, like? Because what you're trying to do to me is intimidate me. I don't mind playing the game, but I'm not gonna sit up and go like this too. No. I'm gonna be like, so like when you said obviously you said that. So what does that mean then? I'm gonna come real cash because see, I need to throw you off now because you're trying to throw me off. So I'm not gonna copy you. I'm not gonna mirror you. If I mirror you, you already came with that game. I don't want to mirror you. If I start mirroring you, I'm gonna start getting emotional because I'm trying to beat you. No. I need to stop. Like, all right, cool. Like, so you said obviously you didn't really answer the question. What do you mean by that? See, I start playing dumb myself because you're trying to play dumb. All right, no, but you didn't answer the question at that point in time. Like you said context. Can you give me the context? I just want to understand. I don't know because it sounded different to me. You know what I mean? You start being charming in the way that you release your information. You have to start being clever, and this is what she was lacking. She lacked the ingenuity and cleverness if she wanted to catch him out. If you're trying to catch him out, you got to be clever. If you're going to do an interview and you want to catch him out, be clever. If not, just do the interview and don't try to catch him out because you're trying to do two things and it cost you, Dove. You know what I mean? It cost you. Look, old girl here. And at one point, there was power things happening because his team were telling her, you don't get to ask that question.
High value men, a lot of rich men do it. And then we discussed at length on podcasts why rich men do it. And we also discussed why women decide to be unfaithful. It's not
okay. Let's wait. Hold on.
Which everybody accepted 10 to 15.
Let's go back to this. I want to show you something because
that you're going to sit here and that certain organizations.
You're the most dangerous man in the world.
I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world. Ability in the last 3 to 4 years. Nobody believes it. And it's a shame. It's a massive shame that the BBC come here and try and push and purport this idea that.
Now look what's happening to his body language though. He's now leaning forward. But he hasn't shifted forward. He's leaning forward almost, which is slightly different. You know, when you sit forward, you're ready to attack. He's sitting forward. It's less of an attack. It's more he's trying to tell some truths, a little bit of assertion here and there. But I think he lost a little bit of his cool. He's trying to lie. That's the reality. He's come forward because he's about to lie. I think he's about to tell a little bit of a lie here. That's why he didn't shift forward. He moved his back. He moved his body, upper body, torso forward, which is slightly different, right?
I'm a dangerous person.
I'm
anti-drugs. I've never pushed drugs or any.
Now watch him sit back again because he's telling the truth, right? The truth is now coming again because the truth is easy to give. Like if you ever want to see, I try my best not to emotionally leak when I'm interviewing someone, but there are times where I've lost it, right? There's times where I lose it. My body will tell you, right? And there are other times where I'm just like, or there's other times where I'm sitting and I'm like, and when I sit like this, and I don't mind telling you the truth what I do because it's not a problem. When I'm sitting like this, I've closed my body off because I want to concentrate all my energy on listening to you. What this means to me, when I do this, what it means, what I'm thinking is, what is this person saying? What they're saying is deep. I need to think about what they're really saying. I'm trying to really focus on listening. When I'm like this, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm taking it all in. It's not a struggle to hear you. It means I can understand exactly everything you're saying to me. But when I go like this, it means something's very difficult and I'm not hearing everything. Or if I'm hearing everything, maybe I'm trying to get more of what you're saying. So I've come forward a little bit. I'm here. I'm intense. Right? All of these are what we call emotional leaks. Right? All of it is emotional leaks. So when he's sitting like this, he's trying to assert himself on this woman. And unfortunately, the psychology worked because I don't think this woman is used to an altercation. She's not used to a fight like this. They chose the wrong one. Right? She chose the wrong one. She got emotional and got pressed.
I'm anti-drugs, I'm anti-violence. The UK is facing a knife crime epidemic, and they're going to sit here and say that I'm the most dangerous man in the UK.
You have said you're the most dangerous man in the world.
I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world.
You've also said that a woman's intimate parts belong to her male partner. I'm glad you find that funny.
Now he starts laughing. He's laughing nervously because he knows what he said. All right, he knows what he said.
I find it funny that you're sitting here saying that I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world, and you believe that's. When did I say that?
I'm asking if you believe it.
No, you said you're the most dangerous man in the world. Is that some kind of proof that I'm dangerous? Am I Dr. Evil now? I'm telling you that it's very upsetting that you're going to sit here and that certain organizations in the world are going to try and pretend that I'm the biggest force of evil on earth when I'm genuinely a force for good.
You have said.
I'm genuinely a force for
Not
good.
what I've said.
And the reason they're doing this is because of the massive influence I have over the youth, and they don't like that I'm telling the youth to think outside of the matrix and ignore things like the BBC, which come here with loaded questions and false narratives and try and paint innocent people as guilty.
You've said women's intimate parts belong to their male partner.
I said that if a woman marries a man, she takes his last name and traditionally the man gives her away. I've been pushing traditional...
Oh boy, we're skinning her, bruv. You get me? So I don't think necessarily it's a win for him. I don't think necessarily the interview was a win for him. I'm just saying that I think in the interaction of the beef between them two, she couldn't hold her own. You know what I'm saying? She couldn't really hold her own. And you know, unfortunately for her, you going in there and then at the end of the day, you can't shake his hand. You lost because you stressed. Why are you pressed? You went to interview somebody and you are pressed. That makes no sense. You know what I mean? That makes no sense. That means you've allowed your emotions to overtake. You don't want to be in that space. Okay? All right? That you don't want to overtake. Okay? All right? I hear that, Jay. Trust me. You ain't telling no lies, baby. You ain't telling no lies. So, you know, talking about obviously and I'll be honest with you, whenever somebody isn't very direct with their answers, you know, and she did call him out though on that one. To be fair, the reporter did call him out and say, well, you know, you're not answering my questions. So because another woman jumped in. Again, I tried to disarm the person through humor, you know, because I want you to feel safe, but you're not safe. I want you to feel safe. So I don't want to, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, but you didn't really answer the question. Baby, come on, baby. Like, so you might hear me sometimes when I'm in an interview, you might hear me go, baby, you know you didn't answer the question. Come on now. You know, and what you know, guys, listen, I mean, I have some ways. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I have some ways. I don't want to tell you all my tactics. You know, I mean, some of you don't realize. Some of you be thinking I'll be flirting. I'm not flirting. Some of you really think I'm flirting. I'm not. I'm disarming. You just don't know. I need you, like people, because I need the people to feel like you want them. Because that makes people feel good. That makes them feel like they've got it over you. If he likes me, if he wants me, I've got one over him. I've got all the power over him. I want you to think that you got me. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? So in that aspect, what happens is the person goes into a false sense of security. What she was doing was trying to go toe to toe. If you go toe to toe, you better pray you have the bigger guns. And if you don't, why are you going toe to toe? A smart man knows what kind of war he's waging. You can't go toe to toe. You know what I mean? So she lost out because she wasn't smart about it, I don't think. And I'm not saying that she lost everything, but you know what I mean? I don't know.
Religious beliefs, because I'm a religious man, and traditional beliefs in regards to marriage, which everybody accepted 10 to 15 years ago.
So
that's not a crazy conspiracy theory. If you're going to sit here and say that me believing a woman should take a man's last name in marriage makes me the most dangerous man in the world, then you're just going to lose even more credibility than the BBC's already lost in the last 4 to 5 years. If that's your point, if that's your narrative you want to push,
say that
good luck.
Men should be able to sleep with a lot of women outside marriage. That doesn't sound very religious or very conservative.
That's not what I said they should be able to. I said a lot of high-value men, a lot of rich men do it. And then we discussed at length on podcasts why rich men do it. And we also discussed why women decide to be unfaithful. It's not a gendered argument. We discussed unfaithfulness as a whole. What are the reasons and motivations for men, and what are the reasons and motivations for women? Because you have no time to actually, watch my content, because you have no time to actually watch my content at length and understand what I'm saying, you just come here with a small snippet which we provided to you on a piece of paper.
See, the problem was she was trying to nail him on a point. But sometimes people like this are very clever. They can't be nailed on a point. Do you see? So you have to circle them like a shark. So what she could have done is asked him questions and let him give his honest opinion. Do. And then you ask more questions other ways. Do. You ask more questions and it's do. And as he's speaking more and more, what you're supposed to do in your mind is then you draw the two. It takes a very clever mind to do this. You then draw the 2 or 3 or 4 points together. And then you go, so you said this and this, but this seems to be slightly contradictory to what you just said. Just explain that for me. You don't have to beat them. The point is you don't have to beat them. You only have to show them that it's not making sense. But when you're trying to beat him, he gonna beat you. Because he's gonna come up with an answer, and the audience are not very slick. They're not very slick. So you're going to look like you lost, and they're going to just continue blindly following, because for them, it's about him being able to answer questions. Well, he's answered and he must be great. But you have to circle him around with dots. Let him keep talking. Let him expose himself. Let him hang himself. It's an art of war. Let the person talk and hang themselves, and then do. Done. Then you're like, oh, but you said at this point that it's such, etc. You said this, you said that at this point, you said this at that point. Oh, you see, you have to make him feel comfortable that you're not challenging him. You get it? You have to let him think that you're not challenging him. That, you know what, you've even brought me onto your side. I'm even on your side. Actually, you've even brought me. I'm on your side. Wow. You know, I didn't even think about that. You know, well, I didn't even think, okay, oh. And that's where you use body language to get the person onto your side. See, he's using body language to outdo you. You're supposed to use body language as well, right? You make him think he's got you. So when he's answering the questions, you're like, You ain't said nothing, just, Okay, so what about this then? I never thought of it that way. And all you're doing is you're sending a signal to him to say, I might be buying into what you're saying. You ain't. You just wanted to keep talking. You just wanted to keep talking, right? And he thinks he's bought you now. And that's when you tie it all in at the end. Ba, 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 ba. Because he thought he bought you. He's relaxing more and more as time goes on. It's you don't have to even say anything. It's body language. It's body language. Oh. So then what about this then? Oh, so when you said that, did you mean this? Sometimes you even add a little context into it, because that's not your feeling. See, you need to have your you need to have your weapon of choice for the kill. You understand what I'm saying to you? But you got to lead up to it. Don't start off with your weapon of choice to kill, because you probably gonna miss it, right? He gonna see the swing. But if you allow him to speak and lull him, okay, then he'll have his whole back to you. He'll have his whole back to you, and before you're ready, do you get me? Yeah. You have to make him feel like the smartest man in the room. Absolutely. That's how you win. I'm telling you. People like that, I think they chose a woman on purpose. I think they chose it on purpose. I think maybe they thought they can get him to trigger and he would say something and do something, but he's not a fool. Like, he handles himself with women quite well. When he's talking to women, he's not ever offensive. He's actually quite charming. And this is what I said, you don't watch him. If you watched him, you would know. But if you don't watch him and you don't pay attention and you're trying to get a little hit piece, you would send a woman in there who's not very attuned. He charms women. And then those who go against him, he's going to try and outbeat you with his intelligence. So they needed somebody more clever who was going to say, I don't mind playing dumb. Like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? But instead of trying to beat him, and it's just like, yeah, it's long for man. All right, listen, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I don't think there's anything more to say. I didn't want to do a whole breakdown. Like I said, I think it's another time. Yeah. Whew. It's crazy. All right, guys, like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification uploads. We appreciate you. Let me know your thoughts down below. We appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. See ya.